It's technically morning for another minute. Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. So I finally watched the first two episodes of National Treasure: Edge of History, the new show on Disney Plus. And the reason I didn't do it sooner was because A, I forgot that it had come out, and B, the trailer for Spider-Verse came out, and I had to watch Into the Spider-Verse again because I love that movie. So I watched Into the Spider-Verse again instead of doing my sworn duty in this case. So we are here to talk about this. Now, here's the thing. I don't hate the show. I don't think it's necessarily the best, but also I don't think National Treasure was that good either to serve as the kind of what's going for here, like the basis for this. Because here's the thing about National Treasure: Nick Cage is great, and it's a fucking ridiculous movie. It's just so silly and conspiracy theory-y, and it's just kind of, interesting at times, because it does have some history to it, but at the same time, history is also adapted for what is cinematic in this show. But it is one of those things where it's like, look, I think that they definitely could have done better with the first two National Treasures before getting, into this. And I don't think I've ever seen the second one in its entirety. I've seen bits and pieces of it. And I know it's about Nicolas Cage, his family being accused of being part of the conspiracy to kill Lincoln, if I remember correctly, because it was like John Wilkes Booth's diary or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. Not important. So, I think that making the FBI agent from that be kind of the focal point of this entire show is kind of interesting. And the girl Jess is kind of I don't recall Nick Cage being this perceptive over the course of his run. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but she's closer to, like, if you're looking for what this show's going to be, it's closer to, like, a treasure hunting Sherlock Holmes than it is than it is the other one. Because maybe I'm wrong. It's entirely possible I'm wrong. Because I watched National Treasure in U.S. History back in 11th grade, and I don't think I've seen it since. But when I remember it, I remember it being more of an adventure more than a Sherlock Holmes kind of, like, okay, so here's, like, little things that she's noticing that, like, no one else notices. Like, the whole idea of her, like, noticing, like, oh, well, I know they're fake FBI agents because every FBI badge is signed by the Attorney General, and those were all signed by the President. I'm like, alright, that's an interesting thing, but, like, I don't know. Like, did they show the badge to her that long where it's like, oh, I could definitely tell the difference between, whoever the president was at the time that these FBI agents were brought in? I don't know. I didn't look too deeply. Also, I didn't look this up, and I probably should have. I'm, like, fairly certain that the Mayans, the Incans, and the Aztecs did not coexist. And not they were fighting, but I seem to recall the Incas were, like, substantially before the Mayans and the Aztecs. Maybe I was wrong on that, but I seem to recall that from global, like, world history, back in high school. I could be very wrong, though. Like, I don't know. So, here's the thing. Notwithstanding all of that, it is kind of it's an interesting show. I'm not saying it's not good, but it is kind of it definitely could be better. And I feel like we just need a little more like a little more of a explanation as to like, and it is no, I can't even say that because it is unfolding at a reasonable rate where it's not like they're moving too slow. Like that's my big problem with Willow to the point where I still haven't watched the most recent episode of Willow, where it's like they aren't doing enough to like in Willow the issue is it's not moving fast enough for me. It's a very slow running show where it's like, God, like, can we just get this going? Like, I don't need to see all of this nonsense. I don't need to, like, just move it along, kick it into high gear, let's go. All of that. I don't think you have nearly the same issue with this, because at least it's moving reasonably quick. But, like, I don't think I can remember another adventure thing taking this format. And it working. And me being like, okay, well, this is going at a reasonable rate. Like, and it is definitely me. I want the story to unfold faster. And I want them to, like, this, again, should have been a movie. Not everything needs to be a series. And maybe as it goes out, it'll prove out why it needed to be a series. And it's doing a better job, I would say, than, like, the Santa Clauses, which did not prove itself a necessity to be a series over a movie. But whatever. Yeah, I think it's an interesting show. And I like the treasure hunting aspects of it. It's just we're not getting enough of that, really. Considering the first, like, little 2-episode batch that they put out is really more committed to telling the story of, what's it called? Like, them trying to save their friend who's been kidnapped by the fake FBI agents who want the treasure, which still hasn't quite been defined yet, which I think that, like, that's something that, like, they really need to do. Like, saying, okay, it's Montezuma's treasure. It's like, alright, cool, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, what does having Montezuma's treasure do? Why do they want Montezuma's treasure? Is it just the financial value of it? Is it just that it's an antiquity because they want to be able to have it in a museum? Is it, like, what are the stakes here? And they haven't really quite been defined. What is what do they want with the treasure? And what is the treasure going to do for whoever has it? In the same way that, like, you sit there, like, when we talk about, Raiders of the Lost Ark, we talk about there's a sequence where we have to just sit there and just lay there while they lay the narrative pipe for us. And it just, like, here is all of the information you need about the Ark of the Covenant for this movie to make sense. You're just going to sit here, we're going to grind the story to a halt, and we're just going to exposit information to you, and then we're going to go. The show kind of needs that moment to be like, here's the significance of this treasure. It's not just, the invaders were coming and they had to hide it. Why is this treasure so significant that it's going through all these great lengths to A, hide it, and then B, for these people to now go through these great lengths to find it? What does that do? I think playing with the politics of her being a dreamer is interesting, and having her have to interact with police and with the feds mostly, and that whole situation, that's all great. And the thing is too, it's like the other thing is where the FBI agent's like, oh yeah, we can help you get in to be the big FBI agent. We can help you get in to be what's on over here get you into the FBI. And I was like, oh well, they would have known that I wasn't here legally, and they would have and they wouldn't tell me that. And it's like, or it could just be an interrogation tactic, assuming you're stupid, which is, I think, far more likely than their fake FBI. Like, that whole thing, I think, was the only time where it's like, it takes leaps of logic and the show kind of expects you to just be like, okay, she's that smart that she's getting it, but I would have liked a little more, like, layout of that. Because even the search to find Sadusky in the beginning, it's like, well, why wasn't like, why didn't we really see that? I'm gonna find out who owns this storage unit, and then it's like the next scene is I found who owns the storage unit. It's this Freemason FBI agent, and it's like, okay, awesome, but like, maybe show us and not just be like, okay, she can do that. And I think doing an escape room is not exactly the best way to exposit that information. That she's good at solving puzzles. Again, just me though. But I know I sound like I'm being hard on the show, but the show is really not bad. I've definitely seen worse, which is not exactly a rating endorsement, but it is, it is what it is. But definitely worth checking out if you haven't watched it already. Because it is, I would say it's better than Uncharted. So if you're looking for a mystery, it's definitely not the worst thing that's come out this year. Because Uncharted was really not that great. But on that note, we will wrap up there for today. We will do Willow probably tomorrow morning. I still have not watched the new episode of Willow. But until then, have a great rest of your week.